everyone, my name is Lila. Welcome to Riversdale House Museum. This house is from the early 19th century, and today we'll be exploring the kitchen gardens here at Riversdale. Riversdale was built in 1801 and was home to the Calvert family. George and Rosalie Calvert had 9 children. Their property was enormous and was a working farm. We know from Mrs. Calvert's letters that they grew wheat, barley, corn, and other crops in big fields. They also had kitchen gardens and a fruit orchard closer to the house. The farm also included lots of animals like horses, cows, pigs, and sheep. The animals provided meat and dairy products. The Calverts were very wealthy and didn't actually work on the farm themselves. They had a large workforce of enslaved people who did back-breaking labor and were never paid. We also know that they had at least one indentured servant from Germany who worked in the gardens. Mrs. Calvert thought he wasn't very good at his job. He couldn't even tell a carrot from a turnip. In the 19th century, there weren't any grocery stores. People had to grow almost everything they wanted to eat. Wealthy families could afford some international foods from a small general store, such as coffee, tea, chocolate, sugar, and even pineapples. These items were shipped from around the world, mostly from countries with warm climates that could grow things that won't grow here in Maryland. Because they came from so far away, these products were expensive. In the gardens today, we grow many of the same foods that grew here 200 years ago. The gardens are entirely organic, which means that we don't use any chemicals to stop weeds or insects from hurting any of the plants. Let's take a look at the corn we have growing here at Riversdale. There are many types of corn. This variety is called glass gem. It's not just yellow like the corn we usually eat on the cob, it's all shades of gold and red. The variety was created by Carl Barnes, a scientist who wanted to recreate and preserve traditional Native American corn. This type of corn is mostly used for frying or popping, not eating on the cob. It stores for a long time without rotting, which was important because people could save it for the winter. Refrigerators hadn't been invented yet, so food preservation was a big deal. Corn takes about 3 or 4 months to get ready for harvest. It'll grow to be about 8 feet tall. Corn is a food that's native to North and South America. That means it developed here over thousands of years rather than brought here by people from another continent. Native Americans grew corn in a special way for at least 5,000 years. Tribes from across the continent grew corn with 2 partners, beans and squash, which are also native foods. Corn, beans, and squash that grew together were often called the 3 sisters. Growing foods together is called intercropping. To grow the 3 sisters, farmers plant all 3 seeds together in one hole. When the plants grow, they help each other out. The corn grows up first, straight and tall. Then the beans grow, wrapping around the corn to reach up for the sun. Beans grow on a long vine that requires a pole to attach to, and the corn stalk is perfect. Then the squash grows. Squash grows on a vine along the ground and requires a lot of shade, which the corn and beans can provide. The squash also keeps weeds from getting to the corn and beans. What's more, the 3 sisters provide nutrients to each other in the soil. Corn sucks up a lot of nitrogen. Beans, on the other hand, provide nitrogen, so it's a great relationship. Squash decreases soil runoff as well. Corn was an important part of the diet of Native Americans for thousands of years, and later for the European settlers who came to this continent. When you're cooking corn, you can grind it down using a mano and metate, which is traditionally used in Latin America. You can also grind corn using a mortar and pestle. This is a mortar and pestle you might use on your kitchen table. That's good for herbs and spices. If you have a big job like grinding a lot of corn, you might need a bigger mortar and pestle like this one. You can find corn in many early 19th century recipes, such as breads, cakes, soups, and creams. You can pop it, fry it, cream it, or just eat it right on the cob.